February 12th, 2018. This is the regular city council meeting for the city of St. Peter. It is 7 o'clock p.m. We will call the meeting to order. All please join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone should have a copy of the agenda in front of them, and just for other purposes, our overhead is not working tonight, so for those viewing later, or even in the room tonight. But anyway, the agenda appears to be, should have a copy of it. Is there a motion for approval of the agenda?
We altering with the handout?
The what?
The handout, is that being inserted somewhere?
Yeah, if I can cover that under
Yeah.
consent agenda, I'd appreciate
Oh,
it.
Oh, it's on the consent agenda, okay.
is there a motion to approve?
Move approval of the agenda.
Second.
All in favor of the agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Next, we have the minutes from our January 2nd, 2018 meeting. Those minutes appear on pages 5 through 7. Is there any changes or corrections to those minutes? If not, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Everyone, excuse me. Everyone in favor of the minutes as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next, we also have a January 24th meeting that was canceled. There are no minutes for that, so we do not have to proceed any further, but just making a note of it. Next, we have minutes from our special meeting from January 29th, 2018. Those minutes appear on pages 8 and 9. Are there any changes or corrections to those minutes? If not, is there a motion for approval?
So move.
Second.
All in favor of those minutes as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Next, we have visitors. We will address visitors that have wished to speak to the council on any agenda item. Seeing no one, we will go to general visitor comments. And I know we have one, and we will address that first. We have a firefighter retirement recognition. And if Mr. Shaw is here, if he could, he's not here. He's shaking his head. Mr. Shaw, if you would like to come up, and you can either sit or stand, whatever you'd like to do, so we can get you on camera. That would be good. I'm going to read a certificate of appreciation, and it says, whereas Stephen Shaw has faithfully served his community and the City of St. Peter Volunteer Fire Department since June 4th, 1984, and whereas Steve was an exceptional firefighter and served the department in numerous positions, including captain and lieutenant, and whereas, like his father before him, his performance of the duties and responsibilities of the firefighter have been characterized by true dedication to the volunteer service of firefighting. And whereas Steve attended 372 meetings, 419 drills, 1,175 fire calls during his service, with over 1,500 hours of volunteer service to the community. And whereas throughout his career with the department, Steve has earned the respect and admiration of his fellow firefighters for his commitment and dedication to protecting the citizens of St. Peter and surrounding townships, responding at all hours of the day and night in all types of weather conditions. And whereas Steve has retired from active fire duty as of December 29th, 2017, now therefore I, Charles Zeman, Mayor of the City of St. Peter, Nicollet County, Minnesota, do hereby present the certificate of appreciation to Stephen Shaw, and hereby extend to him the council's deep appreciation for his many years of service and best wishes for an enjoyable and relaxing retirement.
I hope so.
In witness thereof, I do set my hand and cause the seal of the City of St. Peter to be affixed this 12th day of February, 2018. I'm doing a 2017 certificate. So I will sign that, and Steve, Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chuck. I'm going to call you Bart.
If I may, the fire department would like to present you with this plaque
Cool.
and your official retirement plate.
Unbelievable.
Thank you for your years of service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, did you have a couple things to say, or? That's unusual.
Thanks for everybody coming.
Don't leave yet. We're going to take a few-minute recess, because I know you've got some family members here. If there's anybody else that wants to take some pictures, we're going to take just a couple minutes. It is 7:07 p.m. We will recess and do that right now.
Thank you.
We are back from our recess. It is now 7:10 p.m. Next up is, are there any other visitors in the audience that would like to speak to the council on any item whatsoever? Seeing no one. We will go on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda begins in detail on page 11 and concludes with the resolution on pages 37 and 38.
Mayor and members, related to the consent agenda, I have one request for you, and it's under the vendors for Color Dynamics to remove that pool painting from your consent agenda and have that be the last item on your action or your new business portion of the agenda for tonight. Just as a clarification, the pool painting would be paid for by equipment certificate, so under your rules, you have to have a separate agenda item for that. It can't be on the consent agenda, so I want to make sure that it's done appropriately. So if you make a motion to approve that, if you could do so with that change, moving Color Dynamics from the consent agenda.
Along with that, the resolution for the consent agenda includes the following budgeted purchases in excess of $7,500. To Bobcat of Mankato for side discharge mower for $12,553.35. To Quality Flow Systems, Inc. for pump repair for $15,730. To Hawkins for chemical, which is ferric chloride used in wastewater treatment, for $39,640. To JWC Environmental for fine screen rebuild for $30,000. To North Shore Residential Door for gate and garage door openers for $7,917.73. The following licenses: temporary on-sale liquor license to Nicollet County Ag Society, 400 West Union, on February 10th, 2018. Temporary on-sale liquor and a temporary gambling for Nicollet County Pheasants Forever for 400 West Union for April 14th, 2018. Temporary gambling for Knights of Columbus, 400 West Union for 8/8/18 to 8/12/18, and a temporary on-sale 3-2 license for Knights of Columbus for 1801 Broadway Avenue for 4/6/2018. Following employee appointments, and they are all part-time bus drivers and all at a wage of $15.76. Deanna Dunphy, Barbara Clacius, and Larry Ross. There's some surplus equipment and all of that will be for sale, and it all is electronic related. Also, accountant Brenda Isley is hereby appointed as interim director of finance treasurer effective February 26, 2018 until such time as a replacement director of finance treasurer is appointed. Plus the regular schedule of disbursements for January 4th, 2018 through January 17th, 2018 and January 18th, 2018 through February 7th, 2018. Are there any changes or corrections other than the one Todd mentioned to the consent agenda? questions or comments? If not, is there a motion for approval noting that change?
Move the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Can we get that noted, Jerry, with the deleting the color dynamics portion of it?
Yes.
Okay. Steve seconded.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Garland.
Aye.
Councilmember Brand.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Brands.
Aye.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmer.
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. Next, we have unfinished business, which there is none. We will move to new business. And first up is the 2018 Street Maintenance Program. Mr. Moulton.
Mayor Zeman and City Council, your street foreman and maintenance superintendent have put together a comprehensive package, again, for the 2018 season. It includes everything from winter sand and salt to cold mix to asphalt and milling. A variety of different materials used in the process of maintaining your streets. Nothing unusual from our previous discussion at City Workshop. I think a couple of the questions that I've tried to answer for you that I can just readdress at this time would be, this package here does include some work at the city's hospital, for which you'll see at the bottom of line 19 an income statement coming back to the city for payment of those funds. Again, our process would be, we're planning to do about 4 blocks of full replacement. That would be curb and gutter and asphalt. The base is checked out, so we're feeling pretty good there. Those would be the 100 and 200 blocks of North 3rd Street and the 400 and 500 blocks of College Avenue. We'll see how far our materials go from that process. And so what'll happen on these processes, our street crew will lead the change with that. We've already solicited some bids and worked with contractors to lay out some of the curb and gutter, sidewalk improvements, handicapped access to meet ADA requirements, and a variety of other situations going on there. A couple of other processes here just to remind you of where we're going with these is that crack sealing is going to take place this year. That will take place in mid to late July, ahead of seal coating. We'll be doing some alley replacement as well. We do have just under $30,000 for curb and gutter replacement. That'll stretch pretty far in our process here and get things going. And then one thing that's a positive note is our sign replacement program, which was really completed in the 2017 season. We have just a few odds and ends out there that we need to upgrade in order to finish off that process there that have been caught late. We do have a contingency fund of roughly about $1,300, and again, our staff really appreciates the flexibility that the council has shown in allowing us to move funds around in each of these little categories, whether it be painting or seal coating. Nothing comes out perfect as we had always planned, but we always find something a little different in the process. And we hope to stay right at the $450,000 amount. We think we've got a pretty tight budget there. We were very close last year on the expenditures that you allowed us. And if everything goes right this year, we'll be able to maintain that $550,000 and move forward. We are asking that you approve the maintenance program on page 44 and 45 in resolution. You will still see a lot of these purchases coming back to you in consent agenda should this process be approved.
Questions for Pete?
Pete, talking about the sign replacement.
Yep.
We've mentioned once or twice, some of the signs along 169 through the center of town have been very, very faded. Is that something that would be part of this process, or is that a separate process because of the nature of the highway?
That would be MnDOT's
Okay.
reliability or responsibility. We're reliable for everything outside in our areas on our streets, but that being a state highway would be their responsibility. They probably are still under the same guidelines that we are. We're a little ahead of the curve in our replacement, so I don't really know how their sign program would work, but they do maintain most of their signage and responsibilities.
Some of those signs are speed limit signs and other things that are fairly important for drivers on 169. So if we could mention to them again that there's some that visibility is really to the point that they're not legible anymore, both speed limit signs and then also the crosswalk signs that are on the crosswalk posts.
Okay.
The text is just completely worn off on some of those.
Right. We did mention to them a few of the issues that were brought up, I think it was last fall, related to a few of the signs, and they said that they would address them and take a look at those. And we did hear back from them. Whether they're completed or not, I'm not positive. They're still
No,
out there.
not
but
yet. So,
They have been pretty
We can just-
responsive.
sure, we can just send another note and another reminder.
Sure.
On that same line, and I know this is, again, probably not our responsibility in most of these cases, but I want to clarify whether it is or not. The crosswalk stripes tend to get worn off pretty quickly.
Mhm.
Is that also a DOT issue?
That is actually our issue.
Okay.
A lot of them were painted late this fall. That's part of the agreement that we have with MnDOT as far as the relationship there, and that is our responsibility.
Okay. Is that something that we'll look to update and repair this year?
We'll look to see what needs attention. Like I mentioned, we did paint most of the crosswalks this year, and we'll check them out again this year in the summertime and then take a look.
Thank you.
You bet.
I noticed, I think on 169 or Minnesota Avenue by Walnut, that one was really faded, and that one got changed. Quite some time.
Right.
It's definitely noticeable when they do change them, so.
Members may know that we do have a regular annual meeting with the DOT folks, including the district engineer. And so this is one of the items that's kind of on my discussion list with them to remind them as well.
Any questions, comments? Yeah.
Pete, in your presentation, you made reference to what I thought I heard you say, alley replacement. We don't do alleys. You mean aprons?
Alley
Where they-
aprons,
where they-
correct.
Well, alleys open onto the street.
Right.
That's what you meant.
I may have misspoke, but it is, as you had stated, John, it's the approach going into the private alleys that is in the right of way. And according to your assessment policy, that is something that we take care of on a regular basis.
Anyone else? Steve?
I really don't have a question, Pete. I just have a comment. I don't know if people realize how fortunate St. Peter is to have the accessibility for people with mobility problems in St. Peter. Getting around, at least from my perspective in a chair, there isn't a place I can't go in this community. And I really want to thank this council and you in particular for the effort that you've done in making the curb cuts accessible. I think a lot of people take them for granted. And I've been in the chair over 50 years, and I remember when there weren't any. And I watched the number of young folks that are pushing strollers and how they're able to get through. And young children on bicycles. And I just really want to thank you for taking that effort to really take care of our sidewalks.
Thank you.
So thanks.
Anyone else? Steve?
And while we're talking about all the things that are really great, I also want to just acknowledge that overall, the condition of our streets in St. Peter is very high. I was just earlier this month in another community of about the same size here in southern Minnesota and noticed that their roads were just filled with potholes everywhere. And so we are very, very fortunate. We do put money into this, but we have a team that does an excellent job at
We do.
maintaining our streets. So thank you to all of you for keeping them in the good condition that they are.
Mike and his crew do a nice job making sure everything's working.
Anyone else? The resolution for the 2018 street maintenance program appears on pages 44 and 45. Is there a motion for approval?
Move the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Carlin.
Aye.
Councilmember Brand.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Grahams.
Aye.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Councilmember Coleman.
Aye.
Mayor Ziegler.
Aye. Resolution is approved. Next, we have Pete again for the T-Mobile lease amendment request.
Mayor Zeman and City Council, one of the three antenna companies that we have on our Broadway water tower, have recently reinstalled their equipment and are looking to expand their coverage just a little bit. Jeff Knutson, our water resources superintendent, has taken a look at the information they've supplied and has negotiated a $150 per month increase with T-Mobile related to their overall application at the tower site. We have had our engineer, all engineer look at the interference study on that situation. Everything checked out fine there. We worked with Bolton and Mink, who does a lot of our structural on the water towers for installation, and they have looked at everything there, and everything appears to be in good shape. And we're asking that you authorize the city administrator to finalize the contract amendment. And as you know, and you can read through the agreement there, this contract's been in place since 2006, and this will be the third amendment for that. T-Mobile has been a very good customer with us and has supplied all the written documentation to make this move forward. We're asking that you approve the resolution on page 49.
Questions?
Yes, sir.
It says that an additional 150. How much do they pay altogether?
I do not know that right off the top of my head. I did have a note in to Jeff tonight. I did not get a chance to talk to him, but I'll be able to report that to you at one of the workshops. I'll bring that back to you.
I was just curious.
Yep, I figured that question would come up.
It's, if I can, it's somewhere in the order of magnitude of about $1,000 a month. The total revenue, I believe, from these guys is about 14,000 something with this addition. So we can find out exactly, but that's the order of magnitude.
We do have it in the original contract, and I looked here and I saw that the amendment just talks about adding 150.
Okay.
So we'll get that number to you.
In the background material, it talks about a study being done, structural and intermodulation interference to be performed to provide clear waves for additional antennas and other private entities. Is that something that we pay for, or they are paying for?
They do. T-Mobile pays that. We use our...
That's separate from the lease agreement? That's
Yes.
a different agreement?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
They pay that up front, Mr. Kwame, and then once they've paid those fees, we take that fund or the monies for that. We work with Owl Engineering, who has been our modulation person for about 15 years in reference to the Broadway Tower and the Sunrise Tower. And he does a study and checks all that out.
And there are more small ones being put around the city, like the one we did approve and like I read about in Mankato?
It has been limited at this point right now because from what we understand about it is that the weak points have been addressed already. And so we have really good coverage based on what is on your Broadway and Sunrise Towers.
Anyone else? The resolution authorizing amendment to the T-Mobile lease on Broadway Avenue Water Tower appears on page 49. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved?
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll.
Councilmember Brand.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Councilmember Kwame.
Aye.
Mayor Zine.
Aye.
Councilmember Carter.
Aye.
Resolution passes.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the wastewater treatment pond listing agreement. Todd?
Mayor and members, this is, at least from my perspective, an additional or 6-month extension on the original 6-month contract that you had in place with Caldwell Banker Commercial Real Estate. All the terms are the same at about 4.5% of commission, and this would be for an extension of an additional 6 months. It establishes the initial listing price at $512,000. We've talked about this on a number of different occasions and the opportunities that you've had or haven't had. We have had a couple of showings on this property. I'm not sure that anything's going to move in the near future during the colder months, but as we get more into the springtime, there might be some additional action that takes place. As you may know, we evaluated other potential real estate listing providers, and Caldwell provided us with the best price and more reach than we might see with some of the local real estate agents who are more involved with residential or home sales. Information is included in your packet. Happy to talk about it more if you'd like, and there's a resolution as well extending the listing agreement. The agreement starts on page 52 and runs through page 55, and the resolution approving the extension is on page 56.
Questions? Steve?
Todd, you know, in the agreement, is this a standard language in most
It is.
agreements?
I think probably the only exception, Steve, to this one is that Because of our past discussions with DNR, the DNR is excluded from this agreement, so if we worked out a deal with DNR separately, we would not have to pay a commission.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? The resolution authorizing for an updated real estate listing agreement with Coldwell Banker Commercial and for the sale of the city ponds and former wastewater treatment ponds appears on page 56. Is there a motion for approval?
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a
Second.
Thank you, Susan. Any other questions? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Pfeiffer?
Aye.
Councilmember Quinn?
Aye.
Mayor Zinnan?
Aye.
Councilmember Cullen?
Aye.
Councilmember Brand?
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Next up, we have the 2018 purchase of library services contract. And Todd.
Mayor and members, this is really an agreement with Nicollet County, and it's an agreement that you've had in place for a number of years, I think 18. It's changed over the period of time in that at the very beginning of this contract, which was at the end of the Minnesota Valley Regional Library System, you also brokered services through the county from North Mankato. Since that time, and forgive me for not remembering the exact date, but probably about 10 years ago, maybe it's 8 years ago now, Nicollet County has worked directly with North Mankato, and they have a similar agreement to this agreement. This agreement provides for resources to flow from Nicollet County into your library fund. And so the contract has not changed significantly over the last over the last 10 years or so. This is always very interesting in that we have, over the last couple of years, continued to, I would say, lobby Nicollet County to provide more resources. They have continued to maintain the minimum maintenance of effort that's required under state law and no more. The rules changed back in 2003, 2004, and at that time you even saw a reduction in the dollars that you received. Since that time, well, you can see the list on the bottom of the page, 57, or at least a partial list, and how that changed again from 2011 to 2012 with some of the rule changes as well. Here's kind of the deal. If you don't enter the agreement, you don't get the money, and you still have to provide service to Nicollet County residents. So you probably enter the deal, and we continue to lobby them into the future for more resources. That's kind of the scoop. The contract is in your agreement. Pretty basic stuff through page 61 with a resolution on page 62 to enter into the agreement.
Questions? Comments? The only comment I have, John, you therefore are a lobbyist from here on to negotiate this?
Sure.
All right, good.
Last time we did have a liaison meeting, we did have a specific discussion about this, and the county seemed to indicate that if we in North Mankato got together, they'd be happy to entertain a proposal. The city administrator from North Mankato and I have talked about this just briefly. I think within the next month or two, we'll kind of get some more of the numbers together. I think it's very clear that the cost of your operation continues to go up. And Nicollet County's share of that cost of information or provision of services have been basically static. And so if they share proportionally in the way that they did from 2012, we would ask reasonably that their number would go up. Many Nicollet County residents that are not city residents of St. Peter utilize the wonderful library services here, and we'd love to see that continue and be enhanced with those additional resources.
The resolution authorizing execution of library service contract with the Nicollet County appears on page 62. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
I'll second it.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Grant?
Aye.
Councilmember Pfeiffer?
Aye.
Councilmember Quinn?
Aye.
Mayor Zinnan? Councilmember Carlin?
Aye.
Councilmember Brand?
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Next up, we have the Fire Relief Association benefit increase request.
Mayor and members, you saw a presentation from Daryl Pettis and the fire relief team at your last workshop, and so this was discussed. The proposal from that group is to increase the benefit level from $2,800 to $3,000 per service year is how we calculate that. Their fund has done very, very well. They are over 100%, in fact, a little bit over 106% solvent. They could actually, under the current financial resources that they have, see a larger increase. And I think the discussion has been, and certainly my discussion with the Board of Fire Officers at the last meeting that I had with them, was that boy, it's wonderful that you were able to make about 15% of your money in the 2017 year. Let's be cautious and move forward maybe in 2 steps rather than in just 1 step, and they seemed amenable to that, and that's the proposal that they brought to you at your workshop. The information that's included in your packet suggests from them on page 65, and the resolution provides for a $200 increase per man service year, from $2,800 to $3,000 per service year, and that would be effective in March here.
Questions, comments? Steve?
Todd, during our workshop, the issue of the firefighters being eligible for St. Peter health insurance, does that apply to their dependents also, or how does that work?
No, it does not apply to their dependents. They are eligible for single coverage. However, they are allowed, as is any employee that's offered single coverage, able to buy to the family coverage. So, and we do have a couple that do that. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but that is eligible. But they certainly are offered for their service, the single coverage that's in place. I can't tell you exactly how long that's been offered, but more than 25 years, I believe.
And then, I know it's mandatory retirement at age 65, if I'm correct.
In relation to the Relief Association,
Right.
that's correct.
So if they retire at 60, does the city do the option to carry the city insurance until they're 65 or not?
So they would have COBRA rights just like any
Okay.
other employee would
All
have,
right.
Steve.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions or comments? The resolution approving Fire Relief Association retirement benefit increase appears on page 68. Is there a motion for approval?
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Are there questions, comments? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Pfeiffer?
Aye.
Councilmember Gorman?
Aye.
Mayor Rosina?
Aye.
Councilmember Carlin?
Aye.
Councilmember Brand?
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson?
I'll abstain from the vote because I'm on the department.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Resolution is approved with 1 abstention.
Mr. Mayor, this is a topic that comes up intermittently to the council every 4 years or 5 years or 8 years, where individual council members might see it once in their career or maybe twice. It's hard to get a background or something. Is this something we could talk about at a workshop and just go over a little bit more of the question of the health insurance is provided, the level of retirement benefit we provide, and how that compares to other communities, and where we should be going with this?
I think that's a good topic for one of our goal sessions, probably, coming up. I know it came up, you brought it up at the workshop last week, and it's a valid point, and I think it's something we should look at as the entire package compared to other communities, that type of situation. All right, next up we have Mr. Willie, and it is on Nina's subdivision.
Mayor Zeman, members of the City Council, the Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended that you accept the preliminary and final plats of Nina's subdivision. This is property immediately north of the Holiday Superstation, lying between Old Minnesota Avenue and Highway 169. The property is zoned C4, Highway Service Commercial, and it is also subject to the Gateway Overlay restrictions and regulations. Makenda LLC has paid the appropriate fee and submitted the appropriate materials for consideration of the plat. The property is referred to as the Traverse Mall property and is actually owned by a group named Traverse Mall. They have provided written correspondence consenting to submission of the preliminary plat by Makenda, and as I understand it, the sale of the property is subject to the acceptance of the final plat. The Traverse Mall property as it exists today includes 4.83 acres of land and roughly 770 feet of highway frontage on Highway 169. The plat's essentially a simple lot split. The proposed preliminary plat of Nina's subdivision indicates the creation of 2 lots. The first one, the northern lot, would be referred to as Outlot A. An outlot is not independently developable on its own then until such time as a future plat would be submitted for consideration. The lot to the south would be designated as Lot 1, Block 1, Nina's subdivision. That lot would contain approximately 2.1 acres or 91,476 square feet of land, and that would have 218 feet of frontage on Old Minnesota Avenue. The regulations of the C4 district require a minimum lot size of 15,000 square feet, which is approximately 1/3 of an acre, and then it requires a minimum lot frontage of 150 feet. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on the 1st of the month. There's one individual that attended the public hearing and spoke, expressing concerns regarding the loss of the trees, which provide a noise break and a wind break. The Planning Commission subsequently had recommended that you accept the plat in light of that testimony. At the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, Councilman Kwame, who also serves on the Planning Commission, inquired as to a report that you'd had the Monday night before the meeting from the Public Works Director indicating that there's a need for a stormwater pond north of Holiday should you proceed with improvements to 3rd Street. So I promised Mr. Kwame I would consult with the Public Works Director, and I apologize that I didn't add it to my memo, but in my conversations with Public Works Director Moulton, the north of Holiday was a little more generic than the 2.1 acres immediately north and could reasonably be accommodated, and the provision of stormwater to meet the MS4 wouldn't be hindered by the acceptance of the plat as it's presented tonight. So the Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended both the preliminary and the final plat to you. And Mr. Mayor, I'd answer any questions that you or members of the City Council may have.
Questions? Steve?
This is just out of curiosity, Russ, but where does the term Travis Mall come from?
From what I understand, in the early 90s, there was consideration of perhaps an outlet mall on that property. I don't know if that's the one that ended up in Medford, but it seems to be around that time. So I actually have a market study for what was I going to say? Outlet mall, if you will, on that property from the early 90s. So I think that's where it came up.
All right, thanks.
We've got some historians on the council that have been along a lot longer than I have that might have a better answer, but.
Any other questions? If not, the resolution accepting the preliminary plat of Nina subdivision as petitioned by McKenda LLC appears on page 73. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Call the roll, please, Fred.
Councilmember Kwame.
Aye.
Mayor Zine.
Aye.
Councilmember Garland.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Freitas.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Next, we have the resolution accepting the final plat of Nina subdivision. That appears on page 74. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
I'll second it.
Any questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mayor Zine.
Aye.
Councilmember Garland.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Councilmember Kwame.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Next up, we have, thanks, Russ. Next up, we have the hospital equipment purchase request, and we have Lori here tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Tonight I'm here to ask for authorization to purchase a C-arm portable x-ray machine for $144,221 from GE. Currently, C-arms are used to assess fractures and placement of hardware during orthopedic surgeries for spines, hips, knees. Currently, the C-arm portable x-ray machine that we have is not large enough. The bore is not large enough to get over a table. So the spine procedures that we can do are limited because of that, as well as some of the other procedures that we do. We're asking to purchase a large bore C-arm. At this time, GE is the only one that has a large bore C-arm portable x-ray machine. So we did get 3 different options from them. One was the one that we are requesting for $144,000. That was the one that had the best image and the services or the add-ons that we needed for the surgeries that we do at River's Edge most frequently. We did find a refurbished model, but it was about as old as our current model is. Our current model is 10 years old, and we did not feel that that was a very good option because both of them are likely to go at about the same time, and that's just painful. The third option that was given to us by GE far exceeded our needs and was more machine than we could foresee using in the near future. So near future being 5 to 7 years. We don't think we'll get that complicated at this point. So hence the request for the $144,221. This does go from nose to toes over a table. It is large enough. We do have the table that allows you to take x-rays through it. It's not a metal table, it's some other material. There is no fiscal impact to the city of St. Peter. This is all being purchased out of River's Edge funds. And it supports the spines and some of the other complex hip and knee type surgeries, fractures especially, that we are currently doing at River's Edge.
Mayor, members, the resolution to provide approval of the recommendation from the Hospital Commission is located in your packet on page 77.
I apologize, Lori, your last name, Z-O-O-K.
Zook, like book.
And I should have asked you to say that again. And what is your official title?
I'm the Chief Financial Officer for River's Edge. Sorry.
No, I should have asked you. Yeah.
What do they do with the old ones? Just out of curiosity.
We'll actually keep our old one. It is still functioning, and we use it for smaller procedures. The problem with that one, when you're doing especially spines or things that require the large bore, is that you break the sterile field and it increases your rate of infection.
Okay.
So we'll keep that one for some of the smaller things. We use it in the ED, we'll use it in surgery still for other procedures, but we'll use the larger one more frequently.
Dee?
Laura, I have two questions. The first one, when you talk about the bore, are you talking about the head? So does that mean you pull the head away from the patient to take the x-ray?
So I don't know if your packets, I have a picture on mine. The C piece of it that comes over the top is the bore. On the end of the C and on the bottom of the C here is where your focused x-ray beam is. And so that your patient slides through that, you need to be able to get a table and a body through that bore. So the bore is really just how big is the hole that they're sliding through.
And then the last question, does the head pivot or is that stationary?
No, it pivots.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Anyone else? The resolution, excuse me, approving purchase of the mobile imaging intensifier system for River's Edge Hospital. It appears on page 77. Is there a motion for approval?
I make the motion to approve.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Carla.
Aye.
Councilmember Brady.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Claypool.
Aye.
Councilmember Horn.
Aye.
Mayor Zimmerman.
Aye. Resolution is approved. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
And we're back to Russ with the Realtor referral fee.
Yeah, mayors, members of the city council, as you're well aware, the construction of Traverse Green subdivision is well underway. The city, through the EDA, has constructed 3 speculative homes. Southwest has either completed or have under construction a total of 6 homes. They have successfully sold 2 of their spec homes, and then they have a purchase agreement pending on a 3rd for a scheduled closing. We have not sold a spec home of ours. I'm disappointed. Like I said at one of your workshops, I'm not gravely concerned at this point. In our first 2 subdivisions, Nicollet Meadows and Washington Terrace, we had in place a $750 referral fee that a licensed real estate agent could obtain if they provided us essentially with a buyer. They sent someone to my office to inquire about Traverse Green, or in those cases, the other 2 subdivisions. If they ended up buying a property, we would then provide a $750 realtor referral. In those 2 subdivisions, out of the 163 single-family homes that were built, we paid 1 realtor referral. So staff didn't believe it was material, and it probably had little impact. However, as we haven't sold houses, the EDA considered a staff recommendation from both myself and the mortgage professionals and marketing professionals at Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership to reestablish a realtor referral commission. The discussion was generally that they thought $750 has kind of been diluted over the last dozen years, and it needed to be addressed. The EDA talked about anything from $1,000 to $1,500 to 1%, and ultimately they have recommended to you that you establish a realtor referral of $1,500. The realtors would be licensed real estate agents. They would have to then provide, they'd have 5 obligations essentially. They'd have a working knowledge of the Traverse Green, and they'd maintain the marketing and the spec house detail marketing. Number 2, they'll determine the general mortgage readiness of the buyer. If the buyer is not mortgage ready, we don't want them to turn them away. We want them to direct them to Southwest Minnesota for some mortgage counseling. They can put together a plan, and if the potential homeowner is rigorous and follows that plan, they will say in 9 months you should be in a position where perhaps you can qualify for a mortgage. So they're very good at that, and the realtors, we'd like them to make those referrals. The third, they're not required to show the house. We do want to bring them on a walkthrough so that they can walk through the home, and we will provide them the opportunity to show them the home if they would like. We ask that they help us obtain the buyer contact information, and then their obligations end when the purchase agreement is sold. So the EDA's recommended the policy to you, and I'd answer any questions that Mr. Mayor, you or members of the council might have.
Questions? Steve?
Russ, how do you plan on letting the local realtors or realtors within a certain radius or diameter of St. Peter know about this?
I've had some discussions with 3 of the firms already in town, Councilman. I wanted to see if they thought this would be a compelling reason for them to participate, and the representatives of Pell Insurance and Real Estate, the RE/MAX, as well as then the Atwood agents all felt that this would be something they'd want to participate. If you would approve the policy, then Allie Jones from Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership and I will make contact with all of the realty agencies in town, and a lot of overlap into the Mankato market. We'll offer them to come to a meeting where some of the mortgage products could be explained, the processes could be explained, the income limits to, but get the $9,500 TIF discount can be explained, and then at the conclusion of that, I'm envisioning coffee and cookies. At the conclusion of that, we'd actually take them out and give them a walkthrough of the spec home so they're kind of familiar with what's out there.
Okay, thanks, Russ.
Any other questions? Comments? The resolution establishing $1,500 realtor referral fee for the Traverse Green subdivision appears on page 81. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Brandt.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Abstain.
Councilmember Kwame.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Carlin.
Aye.
Resolution passes with 1 abstention. Next up, we have the Finance Director job description update. Aye.
Mayor, members, starting on page 82 is a memo in the job description follows that, as you know, your finance director is leaving you within the next couple of weeks, and as part of your normal course of business, your usual practice is to review job descriptions as those positions become open, and so this is no exception to that. Most significantly, the change that I propose to you here in modifications to the job description include really a broader base of educational or experiential background. The previous job description that you had was what I would consider very government-centric, so if you had not worked in government service, you probably wouldn't score very well on the process to receive an interview and be considered for the position. The most significant changes here are broadening that out a little bit for the what we might term private sector folks that are in accounting and finance, and I think that will work out very well for us as we continue to look forward. The reality is you operate a business like many others and also unlike many others. And so having some private course background could certainly be an asset and shouldn't be a disqualification for someone if they bring the other skills that are necessary. I think also in the job description, you'll see one addition, which includes something that's been added to Paula's duties a number of years ago, and that includes computer services and IT and supervising that. One notable exception that you'll see to this that you've heard Paula talk to you a little bit about, or maybe a lot about, is transit. Paula's been in charge of transit for almost a decade. Since your joint effort with LeSueur County, I've been more involved in that. And you'll see, though, that that's not included here as a part of this job description. It is certainly something that we could add later, but there are a couple different reasons why I don't have it included now. One of which is that this is something due to the change in leadership that you'll have within that department. Frankly, it's not that it's not important, it's very important, but it probably isn't as high a priority as getting a new finance director on, taking care of your finances. Another issue I think that's very important is that, as you've talked about on many occasions, I'm not sure how long will be Minnesota Regional Valley Transit. There'll be transit in St. Peter, I think, for the long term for sure, but I think you'll see lots of different cooperations and joint venture activities that'll come forward in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. And so I think we want to maintain some flexibility about how that gets assigned. Now, if we have a new finance director that has a propensity for this, or maybe some background in this, or has the capacity to take it on after they've kind of gotten their feet really wet on being the finance director, maybe it's a great thing that I can assign to them. But for now, I don't know that it's something that's appropriately necessarily added to a job description. And certainly we can handle it under the configuration that I proposed to you. Paula is in her last 2 weeks. Her last day is February 23rd, and we've already started the recruitment process. You approving this job description would kind of be the final to making that recruitment process move forward. We used job descriptions for a number of things, but more specifically within the recruitment process to evaluate candidates against. And so it's a really important thing for us to have solidified and in place. Again, the job description starts on page 84, and the resolution providing approval for it is on page 87.
Questions? Scott?
Todd, we're getting to be a pretty large shop here.
We are.
If you add together all the budgets, how big an operation is this person going to be responsible for?
You're going to be around $40 million, excluding some responsibilities in the connection to the hospital.
Which would then be twice as big.
Yeah, twice as big then. Yeah. You are a large operation, not just in dollars, but in complexity. And you operate in a number of different separate business units, exampled by your electric unit, or your hospital unit, or your stormwater unit, or, well, I can keep going. But it is, you are, relative to your population, you are a large operation. And so it's important that we hire somebody that's really qualified. And some of the skills that I think that we see in the private sector can transfer very well into the skill sets that we need here. But there are some other things that are a little bit more unique. And so we're going to go find somebody, I hope, that can do a great job for you.
Other questions, comments? Ed?
On the top of page 84, there's a pay points equals 404. What is?
Pay points, that's a reference to pay equity points, and in some places they call it comparable worth points. So without getting too long-winded, it's a requirement that local units of government have in place that's driven by state statute within the state of Minnesota that tries diligently to ensure that jobs with different descriptions and different tasks are evaluated and paid equitably.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Anyone else? Questions? The resolution adopting updated position description for the Director of Finance/Treasurer appears on page 87. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Second?
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, before you vote, just one last item. Mayor and members, please get on your calendar March 15th. That will be one of the days that we prescribed as being an interview opportunity for potential candidates. So if you don't have that on your calendar, I'd love for you to get it on.
Call roll.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Member Graham.
Aye.
Member Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Member Fleming.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Member Carter.
Aye.
Member Brand.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Next up, we have the item that you all should have gotten a handout for that was pulled from the consent agenda. And Mr. Moulton.
I'm going to take this one. Pete's going to back me up just in case I have trouble. We're going to tag team.
Okay.
So the information related to the pool sandblasting and painting is located on page 15, and all that information is very accurate in how Pete and his team looked at this. What wasn't accurate is where the funding source is going to come from, or the funding sources, to be more clear. And so the resolution that was put on your desk tonight, I think, does an okay job with that. I might have one little additional tweak. Part of your 2018 general fund budget was pool painting and sandblasting, or more accurately, sandblasting and then painting. That's the order in which we'll do it. And so we were looking for proposals to do that work. It was proposed as a part of your general fund budget that approximately $20,000 of the cost come from remaining funds in your 2016 equipment certificate, and the remaining funds come from your 2018 equipment certificate. So the resolution, I gave this to Barb errantly under item number 2. It should say $9,700 from the general, from equipment, 2018 equipment certificate, for a total of $39,700. In addition to that, you will have some inspection costs, which will flow through your regular billing cycle as well. So the resolution that's on your desk should be item number 2. Funding for the purchase shall be $20,000 from the 2016 equipment certificate, and the remainder coming from the 2018 equipment certificate. That is in line with what your budget approval was for the 2018 year.
Questions? Steve?
Pete, I have 2. Are you familiar with both of these vendors?
I have not dealt with either one of these vendors.
And did they came out and looked at the swimming pool?
One of them did, the low bidder did.
The low bidder did.
Correct.
Do you have, in speculation, but why would there be such a spread difference?
Probably how they view the project and the degree of difficulty. One thing about our pool is our pool has got a gunite Portland wall system. Some contractors don't want to deal with that because you can fail pretty easily on some of the sandblasting methods and patching that need to be done before the pool is painted. It can be a difficult project because of the age of the pool and the age of the walls, where other people that have worked with stuff like this look at that and say, I can do this pretty easily and go from there. If you guys remember, back in 2007 when we redid this the last time, 2007, 2006 area, we had 1 low bidder and 3 high bidders. Very similar to what's going on here.
So what's the difference in the material? Is it soft or what is it?
It's a little softer than a normal, the way pools are constructed now.
Okay.
Yep.
More porous.
Yep.
Oh, is that it?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's one of the major factors, is more porous.
All right.
I know that sounds odd for a pool, but that's why you have to have the right kind of paint and the right kind of paint application.
To make it work.
So do they ever use a lot of epoxy in the glue or in the paint?
I'm not exactly sure what this paint specification requirements were for that individual one, but they all bid the same product.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Pete.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? The resolution approving 2016 equipment certificate purchase for the outdoor pool maintenance project was on the supplemental handout that we had. Is there a motion for approval? And remembering the changes, please, if you would note that.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
With the changes on number 2, Tom,
Right.
go ahead and read that again. So,
Funding for the purchase shall be $20,000 from the 2016 equipment certificate and $19,700 from the 2018 equipment certificate.
thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any other questions or comments? Call roll, please.
Councilmember Grant.
Aye.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Councilmember Gorman.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Carmen.
Aye.
Councilmember Grant.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Resolution is approved.
Thank you.
That concludes our new business. Next up, we have reports. First thing on the list is for a proclamation for Women's History Month. I will read that proclamation, and it states, whereas women of St. Peter of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our city in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas women of St. Peter have played and continue to play a critical economic, cultural, and social role in every sphere of life of the city by constituting a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside of the home. And whereas women of St. Peter have played a unique role throughout the history of the city by providing a large portion of the volunteer labor force. And whereas women of St. Peter were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our city. And whereas the women of St. Peter of every race, class, and ethnic background have helped shape every major progressive social change movement. And whereas women of St. Peter have been leaders for the betterment of the city. Now therefore, I, Charles Zeman, Mayor of the City of St. Peter, do hereby proclaim March 2018 as Women's History Month in the city, and hereby do call upon the citizens of St. Peter to participate in Women's History Month programs, ceremonies, and activities, including the March 20th, 2018 Women Celebrating Women event with the theme of Nevertheless, She Persisted, honoring women who fight all forms of discrimination against women. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of St. Peter to be affixed this 12th day of February 2018. Thank you. The only other thing I have, Todd, and I don't know if you were going to mention that, but next Monday is President's Day, and I think city offices will be closed
That's correct, and then your workshop will be on the Tuesday.
on the 20th at 5:30.
Yep.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Mayor members, I'll go through three very quickly. First of all, I apologize for not having the overhead working. I had a technical glitch here, and one of the reasons I apologize, it's nice for people at home to see that, but we had this great picture of how to put your Kirby's and how to not put your Kirby's. And if you get the hot sheet, you've seen it many times, so here's kind of the scoop. It is important not to put your Kirby's, recycling, or garbage in the roadway. Please keep them up on the boulevard, because if there's street cleaning or snow plowing, they are definitely in the way if they are out on the street side of the curb line. So please provide them and keep them up on your boulevard for everyone's safety and to make sure that they're treated appropriately and picked up appropriately. So we'd appreciate all the cooperation that we can get on that. The next item is sidewalk clearance rules. We've had a couple of, well, one for sure, big snow, and a number of other, well, all snows are nuisances, but more nuisances snows. And so we want to remind folks that it's important that you take care of the sidewalk adjoining your property. And so the ordinance within the city of St. Peter says that you have to have it done within 24 hours of the end of a snowfall. We provide for enforcement of that after our city walks and trails have been completed, and then we prioritize complaint areas that we get. So if somebody calls and says, the sidewalk on this block isn't done, when we're completed with ours, those are the first ones that we go to. And then we hit any others that are necessary to be cleaned. You don't want us to do that for you because we have it, the city council has it priced at a rate that is not friendly, because we don't want to do it. We want you to take care of it on your own, or get the neighbor kid to take care of it, or however you can arrange for that. And it's not only that you shoveled a little bit, it really has to be from grass to grass, so the whole width of the sidewalk. Many of the sidewalks that we have in town are 5 feet wide, and some are 6 feet wide, and we do that so they're traversable by everyone, whether you're pushing a stroller, you're walking side by side, or you need some type of mobility assistance. So we want to make sure, and folks that are on the corners are responsible to make sure that the handicap pedestrian ramps are taken care of as well. And we know sometimes we come by and we plow them back in, but you got to go back out there and clean them up. It's very important that we do that. So we have so many people in town that use the sidewalks that it's really important to make sure that they're cleaned off for your friends and neighbors and for yourself. Last I have on my list is that Thursday at 5:30 you have a joint meeting with the Hospital Commission in the Helen White Conference Room up at the hospital. This is to examine the 3 primary areas, really 6 subsets of initial bids for a hospital project. And so you'll be receiving information from your owner agent and from the construction manager, and then the commission will review bids and make a recommendation to you, and then my hope is that after their meeting, you'll take action if they make a recommendation to you. If they don't, well, I guess you won't have much to do, but I assume that they will. We did pass out some information on your desk tonight for you for that meeting, and it's also on our website. So please take a look at that before Thursday at 5:30. And please let us know if you can't be there. We want to make sure that we have a quorum. Any action that you do take would be contingent on funding through USDA, and so there's some information that we want to make sure that we pass along for you about that process on Thursday night, again at 5:30 at the Helen White Conference Room up at Rivers Edge Hospital. Mr. Mayor, that's all that I have for you for tonight.
Do we have a trade show or a home show coming up
Oh,
this weekend?
yes, we do have home show this weekend. So Barb was kind enough to scan and send out to you the schedule for those of you that have signed up, and for those of you who haven't, you are missing all kinds of fun, and we'd really encourage you to sign up. Let us know. Let Russ or Barb or I know. We'd be happy to have you there. We'll give you all the training that's necessary to meet and greet people and talk to them about Traverse Green. Your staff and Southwest Minnesota Housing staff will also be there. So it wouldn't be our plan to leave you alone for lots of good reasons. But I think it'll be a fun time, and there'll be lots of people that'll be there, and I think some interest in what you have going on. As you know, housing is in short supply in our area, and it's a great opportunity for working families within not only our community, but neighboring communities to move to St. Peter.
So where would I go to attend this show?
It would be at the River Hills Mall if you wanted to
All right.
attend.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't tell you exactly where our booth is, but I have no doubt it will be really close to some good places to eat and a bathroom.
So those watching in the future, if you have a family member or a friend or someone that needs more information, if you aren't able to get down to the city and talk to Russ, come on over.
We could do infomercials.
There you go.
Yeah.
Call now.
Anybody else have anything else to add? If not, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
We'll do that for video blog. Do that.